All right, today we are talking about outsourcing, how to delegate, how to automate, how to hire virtual assistants, which so many people struggle with, how to bring in outside team members, get things off your plate. My guest today is Linh Podetti. She's an expert in all these topics. I'll tell you more about it in a second, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we feature top entrepreneurs, business leaders, and thought leaders and ask them how they built key relationships to get where they are today. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I'm the host of this show. You know, if you've listened before, that we get to interview smart CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs of all kinds of companies, ranging from Netflix to Kinko's, YPO, EO, Activision Blizzard, Lending Tree. Check out the archives. Lots of great interviews there. And of course, this episode brought to you by Rise 25, where we help B2B businesses get clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships with Done For You podcasts and content marketing. And you can learn all about it by Googling us or going to rise25.com. You can learn all about it. And I'm so excited here today to have Linh Podetti. You know, Linh is an entrepreneur and the founder of Outsourcing Angel. It's a company that specializes in providing virtual assistants and offshore staffing solutions. She's based in Australia, and she's got a business that connects businesses with virtual assistants from countries like the Philippines, helping to reduce their costs and increase their efficiency. And she started that business after starting an e-commerce business in 2009, which she started from scratch, and then used really a lot of outsourcing in order to build up that business, which is where she really found was her passion. And also has raised 3 kids throughout running multiple businesses. So I can't wait to find out the secrets of how she does it. But Linh, first, let's start with your upbringing. So first of all, you're based in Australia now. You're born in Vietnam. Your family came over from Vietnam. And I love hearing about little entrepreneurial side hustles that people have as a kid. So did you have any of those sorts of things?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. And I really love that we connect regardless of our borders. You know, I'm from Sydney and you're in Washington, is it?
I'm in San Francisco.
Oh, San Francisco. Okay, we were talking about Washington before and I got mixed up. But yeah, I was born in Vietnam, lived through poverty, I would say. And I think that's my connection to the Philippines. When I work with them, I kind of feel and relate and resonate with them. But I grew up, I was fortunate to move to Melbourne, Australia. So it's a different city in Australia. But 12 years ago, my husband found me on YouTube, invited me for a business meeting, and then I moved to Sydney and got married, and we basically had 2 kids after that. And so yeah, I have been, multiple places. But growing up in Vietnam, I grew up with really, really strict parents. It made me really rebel as well, and I end up having a kid early. So one of my 3 kids is actually 20 years old now. So I really learned to be a young mum early. And I think that was the reason why I was motivated to start my own business, because when you're in your 20s and you're having to juggle work and kids, you're like, hang on, I need something more flexible here. And that was when I discovered online marketing, online business, and I really wanted to look into that.
And so the first business you started ended up being one you weren't passionate about at all, nail polish. So
Yes.
If you didn't care about nail polish, how did you end up starting a nail polish business?
Yeah, so I just went through the journey as everyone else, went to school, uni, got a grad job and worked in a really good, stable company. And I very soon later, I got bored and I was like, what else is out there? And when you don't know what you don't know, I didn't have entrepreneurs in my family. I never really met any business people. I wasn't surrounded. So I just could not see any opportunities. I just started looking around and reading things. But the first opportunity that came up was a friend had a beauty supply business and he was selling nail polish and all these different things. And when he gave me some samples to try, I was like, oh, this is actually a really good product. Where did you get it from? He's like, Australian made. How much you buy it for? $1. Oh my God, if I could sell it for $15, maybe I can make money. And so why did I start nail polish? It was my first thing. And one thing about me is I'm not afraid to just take the leap. Whatever, pops up, I take the opportunity and I started it. Did I have any mentors asking me at that time, like, hey, why choose nail polish? What's your passion? If they did, I would have been in a different journey. But there wasn't anyone like that there, And so I just went ahead and I was very ignorant. I was thinking, well, if only 1 million women around the world, when we have 7 billion people out there, buy my nail polish, I could be a millionaire really in a really short time. So I was just very delusional like that.
Yeah. We've all been there. And what were some of the challenges in the early days of running this business? I assume you're doing it on the side while working a
Yeah.
business during the day and raising kids.
Yeah. So I had one son at the time. I worked in my corporate job 9 to 5. And I was just, pretty much starting it on the side. And, I didn't realize it was a hazardous material as well. I have my spare bedroom with all these products. Even though I was looking for an online business opportunity, I quickly realized that when I was shipping, I was having to put it together, ship it out, and it was not really online flexible as I thought it was. But, a few months into starting that business, the HR people at my corporate job actually went to chat with me and said, hey, we've noticed that you've been, emailing, spending time at work, working on this side business. Hey, they were actually impressed. I said, bravo to you. It looks really amazing. But they gave me a choice. They said, you got to stop doing what you're doing to stay, or, we can't accept this. And that was my kind of turning point. I said, oh my God, Lynn, this is what you need to do. Because if I wasn't faced with that decision, I would have just dragged on my feet on one side, one foot on the other side, because it's like, it's too scary to just jump the ship. Especially when I haven't really made much money in this new business yet. But at the same time, I was asking myself, if I'm only spending a couple hours a day on this business, how would I ever make it work? If I had more time into this and if my back was against the wall, I reckon I could make this work. And so I think I used that opportunity to go, all right, I'm going, thank you. I'm sorry for starting a business on the side, but I'm going to leave. And that was me, fully went into this business without any money, really just hustling.
And was it generating enough revenue at this point to support you when you made this leap?
Yeah. And so at the time I was a single mom. So I had some child support. Not child support. My ex, I wasn't had no relationship with my ex. So there wasn't child support. It was a social security or it's called Centrelink in Australia. So he had a little bit there, not much. But because at the time I was dating a guy, so it helped with rent a little bit. And there was a period where I decided I don't want to go back to a job. I'm just going to go back and live with my mum, And so what I realized is that if you really want something enough, you just make it happen. I really wanted this business. I don't want to go back to a job. I'm just going to figure out how I was going to do this. And eventually, it made some money, but not enough. But within a year, I realized that I wasn't passionate about this nail polish. I was still networking and just figuring out what I want to do next. And I stumbled across an opportunity to start a marketing agency because I had all this knowledge in the e-commerce space. And these people didn't know how to find people to do marketing work. They said, I'll pay you. And so I quickly able to start a marketing agency, kind of like didn't intend to. And that business, I think the first year was over 100 grand. The second year was 200 grand, thanks to the power of kind of outsourcing, having a team.
And so tell us about that, how you kind of discovered how to outsource and discovered how to hire a team, because that is a big pain point for a lot of business owners. And it takes them a while, one, to realize it, and two, to figure out how to do it right.
Yeah. So I didn't know about outsourcing at all. I actually went through with Australian providers, try to get a website done. And I got burnt. Basically, I spent 3 or 4 grand for a website. At the end, they're like, this website belongs to us. Unless you keep paying the maintenance fee, it's not really yours. And I felt really ripped off. And I felt, like, wow, even though you're using an Australian company you found on the first page of Google, doesn't mean that you can outsource to the right provider. I ended up throwing that website away. And with limited funds, I was searching for more help. And that's when I came across overseas outsourcing. First thinking, wow, amazing. All these people can do it really cheap. And, and there's so many options to choose from. But I also quickly got burnt from people as well. It was like, I can do it cheap, I can do it fast, and also got scammed. Through that experience, I learned that you need to know what you're doing in outsourcing. And it took, practice and practice. But, when you have limited funds, really there's no choice to outsource to another Australian again. So I kind of was like, I just got to make this work. And so I learned how to use the system called Odessa at the time, or is now Upwork. It's really about, okay, how do I now look at the reviews? How do I test their ability? How do I interview? And the more you do it, the more you kind of know how to spot the good from the bad. And then when you interview enough contractors and you've almost got a bunch of great people that you can access, they're your support team. And so that was how I was able to build like a team behind my marketing agency. And a few years later, I was like, you know what? I'm actually just really the middleman trying to, because I wasn't a web developer. I wasn't a marketing. I didn't study marketing. And I'm like, I'm really just a project manager. And so if I could pivot my business to something where I'll help you find these people instead of you having to make all the mistakes that I did, and be able to just go, this is who I want, I find them for them. And that's how Outsourcing Angel was born officially in 2015.
Got it. And kind of as an aside from this, I'm curious about what it was like growing up with immigrant parents. I've interviewed a bunch of people that have either immigrated to the United States or to Canada or different countries. And oftentimes that really drives who they are, especially as an entrepreneur. So what was it like, for you becoming an entrepreneur, being a child of immigrants? What was that like?
Yeah. When I came to Australia, my parents were kind of like completely fresh, meaning a lot of my aunties have been here since the refugee stages in 1970s, 80s, or etc. So when we came in the 1980s, it was like my parents going, oh my God, we have nothing, everyone's got a house and they've already established. So they kind of went into this mode of like, we got to work really, really hard and we got to catch up. And so they went straight into sewing at home. And sewing at home meant that it's a business, 24/7 business that you can actually work as much as you can whenever you want. And so they worked from 7 a.m. to midnight. And at 10 years old, I was like, can I help you? It looks fun cutting some tags and, can I help you sew some tag in? And I thought it was arts and crafts. And when they started teaching me, I started learning and I did it well. They actually got me to work with them from then on. From the age of 10, I was kind of forced into working for them after school, before school, weekends, up until I was like, late teenager.
Now, for those who aren't watching this on video, you're actually smiling while you're saying this. It sounds very painful, though.
It's painful. I laugh because I just think it was like, I can't. It's just an amazing story too. Obviously, I'm healed from it. I still have nightmares till this day of waking up like panicking, like, oh my God, I still have work. I have to sew. But as a child then, I was crying. I mean, I've sewed in my fingers. I said, I don't want to work. I can see my own friends not having to work. They're kids, why do I have to work? And I couldn't see all that at the time, but they're like, we have to, because, we were new here. But it was still felt like, hey, this is child abuse, child labor. This is not right. But I ended up rebelling and ran away from home. But now that I look back, they've definitely instilled hard work, resilience. And it's like, even if you don't want to do something, you got to do it. And so I have brought that along in all aspects of my life. Even running a business over 10 years, you'll still see me everywhere online and really kind of just a passionate person. And, working out, doing anything around my life, I'm just full of, that kind of hardworking mode. And I got to thank them for that.
It seems like, just to read into it a little bit, that kind of the takeaway for you was the work ethic was good, but you don't want to be the one who's operating the sewing machine. You want to kind of have other people that are operating the sewing machine.
Yeah. So one thing I learned from them is that work should not overtake your whole life. Like they literally just thought that if we just keep working harder, working more, we're going to eventually be happy. But along the way, their family suffered. Like the one thing they're trying to do is build a great family through their work, but they have kids that are running away from home, fighting. My parents were upset with each other because they're constantly working. There was no break. And so now that I run my own business, I always make sure to integrate holidays, breaks. And, this is where I came to realize that I'm semi-retired at this point in time. And I guess unintentionally, I was just wanting to make sure I don't relive what my parents did when they had their own business, that there is a boundary. You start, you stop, you have, holidays and you don't, you control how you want to live your life, not let work control you.
Yeah. And another thing that you have done that's kind of integrated into your business is having a deeper purpose behind it. And so you've integrated charitable work into the purpose behind the business. Talk a little bit about that inspiration and how that came about.
Yeah. So when I organically just started this outsourcing business, to be honest, I didn't really see what I was doing yet. What I wanted was flexibility for myself and to raise my child. But when I went to the Philippines, a few years into my running my business, I just saw the way the Philippines were functioning. All the people that I was hiring actually were living in provinces and don't technically live in the city. And those who live in the city, there is just really it was chaotic. It was really hard to travel back and forth. I'm talking about 3 hours there, 3 hours back. And I just realized that I'm making a difference in these people's lives. I'm not just creating jobs for people that are living in a developing country. I'm also helping these people have a life, being able to be at home, be with their family. And a lot of our team members, even if you think you're paying them a good salary, they also have to support their family as well. In Asia, it's very different. It's like you take care of your parents, take care of the siblings who are relying on you because they're whatever's happening in their life. And so apart from the business model itself is doing something great. So every time a client hires a VA, they need to know, they should know that they're actually making a huge difference into these people's lives. But other than that, we were introduced to these volunteers in the Philippines. So one of our team members' cousin, he was kind of he used to be an ex-gangster who turned into this like, oh my God, I was a bad person. I found Jesus Christ and basically reinvented himself to be giving back to the world. And him and his people, without having a charity kind of organization where it's all about like fundraising, they just doing this out of their own time. And so they would trek up the mountains far away, 4 hours trek, and, give back with rice and school supplies. And so we were able to, work with them. It's about us creating money here to then fund some of the projects there. And because we've got basically soldiers on the ground to actually do the real work. And for every dollar we give them, it literally goes to the people. There's no like kind of organizational admin that we're funding to. And so this is just part of our business. Every month we always get to receive all these photos, videos of the things that we're doing. I go there at least once a year when there wasn't COVID. I actually go and visit all these water wells that we've been able to help. And, I would say we're not a big business at all. And the money that we give aren't in the millions, and yet it's a huge difference to the communities there.
Yeah. I want to ask you about content creation, because that's a big priority for you. You create a lot of content. As you mentioned, videos, audio, stuff like that. You speak. But before I get to that, you mentioned you met your husband through YouTube, or your husband found you through YouTube?
Yeah. I wish I realized the power of content back then, because it was powerful. Like I literally made 2 or 3 videos when I started my marketing agency, and that video attracted an audience from Sydney, like him. And he was looking for something online business or something, and he came across my video, and then he invited me for a business meeting, and I happened to be single. He's single, and we got married 8 months later. And so I knew videos were really great, but I was, like everyone else, afraid to be judged, don't know what to talk about. Well, I am not that great at video at that time either. So of course it's like, it takes forever to really do a video. And so I stopped. I didn't make any more. And then when I would try again, I make a few, and I just like look at it and I'm like, oh my God, cringe, not doing it anymore. And I regret that, because 4 or 5 years ago, I realized that what's my purpose in life? It's not just about making money. It's about making an impact. It's about like sharing my wisdom, sharing what I know, because I don't want to die with all that information. I want to help other people. And so I looked at that and I said, well, I need to get over myself, stop worrying about people judging me and look at people like Oprah, who is my idol. It's like she makes a huge impact on people by, being in media, by creating content. And so I just went, that's it. Forget about what I want, do what I want to help people with. And so that was when I committed to it. And I really went through that phase of like struggle of videos, consistency as well as shyness. And the more you do it, the more you love it. And when people tell me now, it's like, hey, yeah, of course you're good because, you do videos because you're good. They don't realize that, no, I am good because I persisted.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
So let's talk about outsourcing as a strategy, and let's talk to businesses out there that haven't outsourced. Or, I was talking to some business owners earlier today who were saying, the clients, they hire me. I couldn't imagine them not talking to me because I'm the business, and I had to kind of explain to them, well, that's not necessarily a good thing. You can actually deliver a lot better service when you have a team of people, which it took me years to get to that point. But what do you say to businesses like that haven't done a great job at delegating and outsourcing?
Yeah, look, it comes down to just limiting belief. We believe that only we can do it, that we're the best, that it's faster if we do it. But what I realized is that when I started hiring people, I realized I am not the best. I'm not the smartest. My managing director right now, he's way smarter than me. If I didn't hire him, I wouldn't be where I am, because he basically looked at my tools, helped me automate. Even though I had a team as well, I didn't realize I was doing a lot of things manually. Now, if I thought that I was the smartest, I wouldn't have hired this person, right? And even back then, I thought that I was the best recruiter, because obviously I went through all this making mistakes with outsourcing. So only I would be able to find these great VAs, because I'm like, maybe my charisma, the way I'm interviewing them is so great. But when you realize that in order to grow, you need to spend time on sales, or you need to spend time on strategies, you can't help to have to let go of the things that you're doing, because there's no time. And so I just basically got my second in charge virtual assistant, who at the time was helping me, maybe sending invoices or managing the team, to like, hey, you know what? I trust you the most, and you know me, and you know what we want in this company the most. Can you just like shadow me in what I'm doing in recruitment? And I'll just teach you. At the time I didn't have a path. I just thought, I'm going to offload to you. And so I got her to sit behind watching me recruit, watching me interview, and then she learned, and then I watched her do it. And then eventually she was doing it without me. And then after that, you have a process and you document it. And then she then went on to teaching the next person. So that made me realize that the very one skill set that I thought was very soft skill-ish and it takes me years to learn, I realized that there is a process in it, and anything can be trained. And then when you step away from that original role, it allows you to explore new roles. And then you realize that you actually love something else more than that. So I used to love recruitment. I love being the project manager behind the scenes, because remember, I was afraid of content and videos. But then when I stopped doing that and doing content, I could do content all day, and now it sucks my energy if I have to sit there and kind of focus on the details. So you actually don't know who you really are at all until you explore outside of your comfort zone.
It evolves, doesn't it? It changes. Like you might really enjoy doing one thing, and then you realize, I don't want to do this anymore. And so then, if you haven't delegated, if you haven't put a system in place, then you're going to be miserable, or you're going to give up on it, right? Those sorts of things tend to happen. Now, one other thing you discovered is that with the business is that a lot of businesses weren't even ready to hire a VA, a virtual assistant, outsourced staff yet, because they hadn't put systems in place, they hadn't put workflows in place. And so one of the things that your business has been doing has been helping businesses with putting those in place. So unpack that a little bit for us and how that works.
Yeah. So an example is myself. For a few years, we grew Outsourcing Angel to $1 million within 3 years of kind of pivoting to that model. And I had maybe 10, 15 internal staff at the time, and a bunch of VAs that work for clients. Even though I had that kind of team, I was still stuck in it, meaning, first of all, the staff had to do a lot of manual work. I'm talking about copying and pasting, and it was very inefficient. I too was kind of the end all, people would come to me, ask me for approval, and I was kind of stretched in multiple places. And it wasn't until I hired my operations manager, who had the background in technology and also workflow processes, that he was able to go, hang on, why are you using Skype? And we don't really know where the conversations are going. And it's really hard to really pinpoint, the thread of the conversation. We need to go to Slack. And it was like, oh my God, Slack, you hesitate like any business owners do when you look at technology, you're like, oh my God, I don't know if I want to do that. But it was the best thing we did. We went into Slack, created these channels, but not only creating channels, we started automating things. It's like, okay, well, every time a sales come in, we want the whole team to know that it popped in. And then we want to know that that person gets to book in a discovery call immediately upon paying the deposit. And so we were able to do all these automations that meant that it reduces the human error, but it also means that we became more efficient. The staff member doesn't have to do mundane things. So an example, what we used to do is just because I have VAs who are very affordable, I used to have templates, scripts that they would send out when a client comes on, a client, buys, and then there's all these thank you emails. We were doing it manually. This poor person would actually go, he sends an email, have to remember to send another email. And so those are the kind of things that we can systemize and automate, and also get the tools to talk to one another, that not only are we doing things faster, we are happier because it's like things just work without us. And so now, we're able to free up myself, free up the team in many ways. And so we realize that that's what we want to do for clients too. You come here for a person, but we're going to come here, you're going to get a free up business, a business where you and your team don't feel like you're stuck in it, or at least, we try to automate as much as possible so that you could free up some time to work on your business.
Yeah. I want to wrap up, but before we do, you mentioned earlier that you realize that you're partly retired. And one thing I'm curious about is, how does one come to peace with that? We should all be so lucky, but you seemed like a very driven individual. You said that you learned a hard, work ethic from your parents and from other inspirations. How do you become okay with, not being partially retired at a young age and not working when you could work late into the evening?
Yeah, sure. So I believe in life for happiness. It's not just about your work life. It's about your family, your friends, every spiritual side and time for yourself. And you need to put effort and work towards all of those areas. And so even though I'm semi-retired at work, I am still, busy trying to make sure that I'm there for my family, there for my friends, there for myself and all that thing. So I'm still busy in that way. But what helped me to realize I'm semi-retired is that my husband, he has a manufacturing business. So he's eager to kind of like get out of it or try to, if he was to ever work in a business again, he wants something that's a bit easier and not stuck in a factory. And so he was like, I want to retire soon. You should retire too. And I'm thinking, why does he want me to retire? Hang on. And it just wasn't sitting well with me. And then when I was posting all these photos up of myself traveling a lot, and I travel almost, weekly and going to events, that friends in America saw all these photos. And this guy goes to me, wow, you're living like a retired life. And I was like, when things just pop up, the word retire, I got curious. I Googled up, what is retirement? What does ChatGPT say about retirement? And it comes down to being able to work part-time and spending whatever you like on the other time, right? Spending time with your family, traveling, hobbies, whatever. And so I realized, oh my God, I'm doing that. I'm living that. And I think the turning point for me was a year ago when I realized that I don't want to do any more startups, because even though I had this main business along the way, I've started many little businesses along the way because I just wanted to keep busy. I thought that I wanted to, I have all these ideas and I think it's going to be a success. And I just keep getting myself into more stress and more hard work. And, and even though I have a business that had a team, I could actually just focus on that one business, spend time strategizing or whatever in that minimal time. And that could grow a lot more. It's like this machine's already working. Why not put minimal effort in it and make it really work than trying to spread yourself thin in all these other business ventures, and then you don't get the freedom that you want. And so I think I would say, the last year or so has been the life of a proper semi-retired person.
That's great. Lynn, this has been great. I want to wrap up with a question that I always ask in my interviews, and I'm going to put you a bit on the spot because I usually warn people beforehand, but I'm a little rusty because I haven't been doing interviews for a few weeks. I took a little bit of a break over the summer.
Yes.
So I forgot to ask you before, and so apologies, but I'm a big fan of gratitude, and I'm a big fan of expressing gratitude, especially to your peers and contemporaries in your industry, others who you've leaned on. When I ask that question, a lot of times people will default to mentioning their family or their team, but that's not really what I'm getting at. What I love to hear about is really others that you consider your peers, maybe people that have kind of helped you, maybe even a mentor along the way? Who would you want to shout out and just thank for being there for you?
Look, I have a lot of people that I want to thank, but for the purpose of even EO, like I want to thank Lisa Moore. She's a friend who convinced me to join EO. And I just feel like she's really opened up my world to another level, right? Like the amazing people, the community that I've got, but also just having her there as almost like my big sister to guide me along the way of this journey of EO. I'm so blessed to have her. And because we join EO, we get to see each other even more. And so this positivity, and we're just basically growing together. And so I'm grateful for you, Lisa.
That's
a beautiful question, by the way. Thank you.
Outsourcing Angel is the name of the business. Where can people go to learn more about you, Lynn?
Google my name, Linh Podetti, or Outsourcing Angel, and we're across all different social media and websites as well. So connect with me. I'm friendly.
You certainly are. Thanks, Lynn. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, John.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.